American Express Open Business Cards from American Express can help cover the big purchases you need to make when you need to make them. Find out how American Express Open Cards and Services can help prepare you for growth at open.com.
This is Larry Culpepper. I love college football so much that I went ahead and came up with the idea of the playoff for it. And the only way I can get ready for each and every Saturday of college football is by listening to the Championship Drive podcast.
This is Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Russell waiting, drove in 95 during the regular season. The 2-0, a swing and a high fly ball. That's a grand slam.
Here we go. Game 7 tonight. It's as good as it gets.
I wish it wasn't due Game 7, but I'm pretty confident in who the Indians can send to the mound.
Jake tweets, Cavs came back from 3-1. Indians blow 3-1 lead. Sorry, Cleveland. Hashtag Cubs win.
Whatever. Are you a seer now? You have a crystal ball? Huh? What? Let's wait it's over. How about that?
Now, here's Mike and Mike.
Here we are, back and better than ever. Mike and Mike, presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. And look around, as the song says, at how lucky we are to be alive right now. In this year, Peyton Manning, Sidney Crosby, and LeBron James all won championships, the best of the best on top. And now we get the pièce de résistance on the back end of our sports year. Game 7 of this already historic World Series tonight in Cleveland.
And the ratings have been incredible for it. We are both think they hit 40 million tonight in the game. It's the middle of the week. It's early regular season in hockey and in the NBA. They don't have to compete against football, though last time they did that, they won that battle. So this is a monster World Series, and you know, while my Indians are in it, I get the headline is the Cubs and just the lovable losers and the whole losing streak, even though this is Cleveland, the second longest. The Cubs are the longest. So it sets up for a fantastic Game 7. I wish it ended in Game 6 last night, but the Cubs' bats came alive yet again with certainly a little bit of help from the Cleveland outfielders, but still they were knocking the ball around. I absolutely deserve that victory. And now we get to Game 7. We get to Game 7 where the Cubs get to throw their what looks to be the Cy Young winner in the National League, and the Indians throwing their ace, and Corey Kluber looking at his third start in this World Series. Andrew Miller, is ready to go. Shaw is ready to go. Allen's ready to go. So that bullpen, which has been phenomenal for them, is all rested up and ready to go. So a lot of it is the unknown of Kluber, of just what he can do on his third start in the World Series, his second on short rest. But, wow, Game 7. I mean, these players probably wish you can't get here fast enough.
Temperatures in the 70s, no rain in the forecast tonight in Cleveland. So we have history ready to go. Quickly on the television ratings, the highest-rated World Series game since 2000 was Game 7 of 2001, Yankees-Diamondbacks, a game started by Roger Clemens and Curt Schilling. They did about 39 million viewers. I think there's a chance they'll top that tonight. Mm-hmm. The highest-rated World Series game since 1990 was Game 7 of 91, which was the Jack Morris game, which went to extra innings scoreless. I remember where I was sitting when I watched it. I think it was the best baseball game I've ever seen. They did 50 million viewers for that. I don't know if they'll get to that tonight. I don't know exactly how that works, because tonight, as opposed to in those days, people would gather in bars to watch sports then, but not like they do now, and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how they will measure that stuff. Tonight's game takes baseball has, at least for the moment, sort of captured everything you could ever possibly capture.
It has, and then from their standpoint, you couldn't ask for anything better than Game 7. Cleveland, again, when you're up 3-1, you wish it wasn't, because you're now the reverse of what the Cavs did in coming back down 3-1. Cleveland, the Indians were up 3-1 in this and haven't been able to close it out.
Two observations. One, you never know how things are going to turn out. But to me, that's a totally different game if they catch that ball in right field in the first inning. Does that mean that Russell's not going to hit a grand slam 2 innings later? I obviously can't tell you that. But it just feels like, from everyone's perspective, it's got to get in Josh Tomlin's head a little bit. It's got to be in the Indians' head a little bit. Oh, we want to play so badly with the lead and everything else. And now all of a sudden, all right, 1-0 you're going to live with. 3-0 is a totally different feel and a very bad misplay in the outfield. So you cannot, in my opinion, overstate, even in a game where the Cubs wind up scoring 9 runs. And once again, I cannot tell you with certainty they wouldn't have scored 9 runs anyway.
Right.
but I don't think they would have. To me, that feels like that is a play that sets a tone for the night that is that really does go a long way towards determining what comes next. So here's Terry Francona on the disaster in his outfield.
Lonnie went hard after it, as he should, but it's Naquin's ball. He was playing on that side, and he's a center fielder. And I think at the end there, as Lonnie was kind of pulling off, Naquin was yelling, "It's yours, you got it." And it's pretty loud anyway. I think we kind of told Nate that, especially playing on that side, that's his ball, and just take charge and take it. Kind of made it hard on Lonnie because you got to go hard until you hear something. And that was an unfortunate play because that ended up, we thought we're out of the inning with one, kind of regroup, and instead it's three, and JT had to keep pitching.
Listen, it's just something that you rarely see on a routine fly ball, right? I mean, there just wasn't the communication. I know it's loud in there. I get it. You think you're out of the inning, but there still has to be communication. And, our guys are putting up Naquin's a rookie. Chisenhall played third until the middle of last season. All that's well and good.
But it's a routine fly ball.
That's exactly right. They've been doing this since Little League. So, I mean, it's a mistake. It's a bad mistake, and that's why, they say you play the games. You never know what can happen. But you're out of the inning 1-0. You never know what the difference could be. You're right. You could still get the grand slam. The bats still seem to be alive, especially more toward the middle of that order. I mean, you look at from 3 on down, Bryant, Rizzo, Zobrist, and Russell were 11 of 19. They had all the RBIs with Russell having 6 of them. He got that was considered a hit, that ball dropped there. But that's a routine play. You got to make that play. You have to. And they almost collided later. I think an inning or two later, Chisenhall runs across again this time, and he's waving off Naquin. He makes a catch. Naquin has to slide behind him, and it was short right center. So who's out there? It's
Kipnis.
Kipnis is out there. He kind of ends up talking to Naquin. Naquin doesn't look happy about it. I'm like, Game 6 of the World Series, we're all of a sudden not going to have communication out there? I mean, it just seems stunning because they're routine plays.
Yeah, it turned into a problem. I mean, for whatever reason, it turned into a problem last night. As you heard Terry Francona say, it's loud, it's a World Series game, but those are not plays that are supposed to be a problem. And sometimes series shift on moments like those, and we'll see. To me, the other old adage in baseball that has been proven true in this is that there is no such thing as momentum. Because unlike any other sport, the next day's game is an entirely different game based upon the fact that you're changing starting pitchers. So that for the same reason that I did not believe that this series was over at 3-1 Indians, I tweeted it Sunday, I still think the Cubs are going to get it to a Game 7. I believe the advantage it favors the Indians right now. We had Jesse Rogers on this morning covering the Cubs saying momentum is on the Cubs side. It certainly is, but I don't believe in momentum. Yeah. I believe if Corey Kluber, the big question mark to me is throwing for the third time in whatever that would be, 8 days, back-to-back short rest situations, how much is he diminished? Yep. If he is anything like what he was in games 1 and 4, and then you've got Miller on total rest. I mean, he hasn't pitched in what feels like 100
Shaw,
years.
Allen are they're ready to go.
Then the advantage is clearly to Cleveland. Momentum doesn't mean a thing. Kyle Hendricks, listen, here's your moment, kid. I mean, you're going to win the National League Cy Young and everything else. Take the ball. Because Aroldis Chapman pitched last night, and he pitched a lot, and Joe Madden showed you last night. Don't pay any attention to what he says. Joe Madden showed you last night he doesn't have enough faith in the rest of his bullpen to get him to the finish line. Because with a 5-run lead, he put Chapman in the game.
Right.
Now, we left him out there in the 9th inning, and he sort of talked a little bit around that, and we didn't get a guy up fast enough when the lead got extended and all. Okay, fair enough. But the point is, he's telling you right there. Now, maybe John Lester gets the ball, and maybe he pitches great in relief. But I'm always very, very hesitant, nervous about a starter. Yeah. Like I know Bumgarner did it, and we've seen others do it. But that's a scary situation to be going to a starter rather than someone who's accustomed to that role. So, to me, the advantage on paper going in this game clearly is with Cleveland. That to me, there's no question.
I agree because of how short they can have that starter go and still fill in with those other guys. And let's see what Kluber does. I mean, that's obviously the big question. Is he on, but for a shorter period of time, or is he off right from the beginning? Also, let's see what the home plate umpire's calling. Let's see if he's getting if both pitchers what both pitchers are getting and what the hitters have to deal with for a Game 7 when you don't ever want to have to talk about the umpires, official, referees, no matter what the sport is, especially in a Game 7. Let's hope we don't have to tonight.
On the decision by Joe Maddon to pitch Chapman and leave him out there as long as he did, there's been a lot of opinion. Our Eduardo Perez didn't like it.
Completely disagree with the decision. You have a 5-run lead and you're bringing in your best pitcher. One, it sends a message to the rest of the bullpen that you don't trust them. Two, what the other thing it does, now you show him fatigue. And he threw 42 pitches 2 nights ago, went 2 2/3 of innings, which is the longest in his career, almost gets hurt on this play. And then you're using a pitcher that's not a finesse pitcher. This is a power pitcher. Yes, he's going to say he's ready for it tomorrow because it's Game 7. Yes, mentally he's going to be there. But you saw the ill effects of the wear and tear going into the 9th inning. He could not locate well. This is going to continue for tomorrow, and it's a big question mark. When do you use him? You could have had him for multiple innings tomorrow. Right now, I don't know if he's good more than just 1 inning tomorrow, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to put a lot of pressure on a bullpen that you send a message to, that you're telling them, listen, you can't handle a 5-run lead.
Yeah, that's looking at the other avenues of this, but Joe Maddon was looking at we're getting to a Game 7. I don't want them starting up. It's the middle of their order. I'm putting my guy in to shut this down. We got a 5-run lead. I may be using a sledgehammer to kill a fly here, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to be back tomorrow night playing, and that's tonight, and that's exactly where they are.
I 100% agree with you. I 100% am not criticizing Joe Maddon. As Jesse Rogers said earlier this morning, if you want to criticize Maddon for leaving him out there for a batter in the 9th inning, okay. Now, what did he throw, 4 pitches in the 9th inning?
In the 9th inning, threw 4.
Jesse talked about how you have to warm up for that as well. I don't know how much of a toll pitching the 9th inning will have on his ability to pitch tonight. But the reality is, you don't know what tonight is going to be.
No, you do not.
Tonight could be 10-0.
Yep.
In either direction.
Don't know.
So you do not save your best pitcher for a situation that may never occur when you've got to make sure you win that game.
You got to get there.
Joe Maddon didn't have the luxury Terry Francona did last night of a 3-2 series lead. So, for me, I have zero criticism of the manager in that situation. You?
No, I agree. Do I think it was a little overkill? Do I think they probably could have got away without it? Yeah, but, that's easy for me to sit here and say that. I'm not in the dugout with your season riding on it. For some reason, you don't. I mean, do we not think the Indians are capable of putting together some runs? They are, and Maddon wanted to make sure they couldn't. So, he's at Game 7 of the World Series. And when he was down 3-1, that's all that matters. Get to Game 7, and that's where he is.
It's been almost 25,000 days since the Indians won the World Series. It's been almost 40,000 days since the Cubs won the World Series. One of those will come to an end tonight. Game 7, you can't ask for more. We'll have the coverage coast to coast here on ESPN Radio. John Gruden, when he was on with us earlier this morning, said the morning that he woke up and was coaching the Super Bowl that night, he was just basically in a frozen position, staring at the ceiling, and having not really slept well several nights leading up to it. And someone asked a question on Twitter earlier this morning, Mike. You have bemoaned many times the fact you never got to play in a championship game and how much that still kind of eats at you to this day, which I fully appreciate. What was the most, if you can remember it, what was the most pressure you ever felt? What was the day or the game or whatever it was where you in your athletic career felt the most pressure?
I would say from a professional standpoint, when we got to the year that the Cowboys won the Super Bowl in 92 season, 93 Super Bowl, we'd beaten New Orleans in the wild card game, and we got to Dallas, and that was because with Buddy and then on to Rich Kotite, we hadn't won a playoff game. Hadn't won a playoff game. So we won the playoff game in New Orleans, and then we got to Dallas, and we thought we were going to win. I mean, we went into that game incredibly confident, and Dallas took care of us, to their credit, and they went on and they won the Super Bowl. But because, I had been there for a while with these same guys, and we had not gone further than one win in the playoffs, and now here we were with a chance to get to that next level right before the potential of a Super Bowl. That was probably the most pressure and most nervous as a professional athlete of where we had the potential to go to. We were very confident, we were a very confident group. that we were going to get it done. But from a standpoint of sleeping and preparing and making sure you're prepared and trying to stay in your routine. Now, while it wasn't a Super Bowl, it was a big game for us trying to get there. So there were all those elements of nervousness. What's the clock? What time is it? Oh, my God, it's only 2 minutes later than I looked at my watch the last time. Can we get to the stadium? Do I go to the stadium early? No, I'm not going to go to the stadium early. I'm going to stay in my routine. I was a guy who went on the last bus and got there right at 2 hours before the game. We had old linemen who'd leave breakfast, for a 1 o'clock game, would leave breakfast and go right to the stadium. So depending on the time of the game, would be there 4 or 5 hours early, getting taped, getting ready to go. And I thought about going early just to get there, but I said, no, I can't. I got to stay in the routine. And it's just what you go through, especially the later in the day a game is. Even though you're used to playing late, all these World Series games are at night, so they're used to playing that. But it doesn't mean you don't have the itch to get it going, a lot sooner than it's going to.
Yeah, it's something you can only dream of. You've heard some of the players themselves saying it. If you're in this game, by definition, you were a kid who played baseball and grew up dreaming of this opportunity, and here it is. And someone will be remembered forever for something that happens tonight.
Right.
And the courage that it takes to play in this game is that you never know what you might be remembered for.
Well, it's exactly right. You can remember for a grand slam or watching a ball fall down between you and another one of your teammates. I mean, you're in the position to make a great play, but you're also in a position to be looked at and said, what were they doing there? I mean, that's where you are. Everybody wants to be in that position, though. You dream about that. If you make it to that, that's what you dream about, first becoming a professional athlete. And then when you become one, you dream about the biggest moment. And the biggest moment is being in that series. And then do you have the weight of the world on your shoulders? If it's in the field, you make that great stop at shortstop or make a diving catch on that gapper in the outfield, or you're at the plate and you got a guy on second and you need that guy across just to tie. I mean, and that's the thing about it. In football, you can draw up the play to have your quarterback, who, if he may be your best player, is going to start with the ball, and you can draw it up to try and get it to a receiver who may be your best player as well. In baseball, you don't know. That could fall to the guy 7th in the order, 9th in the order, 2nd in the order. As far as a hit is concerned, you don't know when your number is going to be called to need what, in this case, will be the biggest hit of a lot of guys' careers or the biggest pitch of a lot of pitchers' careers, though we may have pitchers in this game who will be throwing in relief or something who have had experience before.
Look, I mean, we all know the names. If you didn't have the courage, if you were afraid of failing in this moment, you would never have gotten there in the first place. But we all know who the names are, right? I mean, throughout the history of sports, ask Bill Buckner, who had a great career, but what do you know of him? Ask Scott Norwood. Ask Ralph Branca. Ask people like that whose names will always be synonymous with the worst moment they ever had in the sport.
And that's the thing.
That could be someone tonight.
Of when you get called on for that. Like I was never a player that was going to get called on in a big moment. We're drawing this stunt up for you. I wasn't going to be that guy. Now, I could still make a great play, or if I get blown off the ball, I could be able to go screw that up there. But like I said, in baseball, you don't know. You don't know when your number is called. You may have the star hitter, but all he can do is sit in the dugout and watch you, and maybe an average player going up there and trying to knock in the winning run.
You know what could have happened to you in your career is you could have been getting just completely blocked at the line of scrimmage.
I'm just standing on the line of scrimmage.
You could have just been standing there, and then all of a sudden they threw a ball to you and you intercepted it and ran it back for a touchdown.
How great does that look then?
And all of a sudden you're the hero of the game. Now, in your case, if history was a guide, you would have been tackled by the quarterback because you made 3 career interceptions and were tackled by the quarterback all 3 times. But that doesn't change the fact that it could have gone otherwise in the big moment.
I don't know why you have to bring up the negative part of what could have been a positive thing for me.
Because that's just how I am. Mike and Mike, we are presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line very quickly, as we are almost wall-to-wall with the baseball today. But one football note, I know, Mike, you wanted to get in. Straight Talk brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, half the cost. Cam Newton and Roger Goodell had their conversation yesterday. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, listen, he said that I thought Cam handled this well. He was frustrated on the field, said some things to a referee, apologized to the ref. We've jumped on Cam for walking out of pressers and all that, but I thought what he said is he is tired of it, and I know what Marcus Gilbert said from the Pittsburgh Steelers, basically about, if you can't.
Ben gets hit all the time.
Ben
like
gets
that.
hit and all. And I'm not going to sit here and say Cam is not a tough player. Cam and all these hits that you see on Cam, when I was playing, these were all legal. You could hit him low. You could hit him high. And you know what? If Cam played in that area, he would just have to learn to deal with it. But we're in an era where you're not supposed to have to deal with it. Other guys are getting the calls, and he's not. So I don't blame him for his frustration. I don't take that as being soft at all. I take that as, wait a minute, just because I'm bigger than these guys, I'm still getting hit in the head. I'm still getting hit low in the pocket on a couple of these. Why am I not getting the calls? And he's right. So I'm he said, I'm going to call Roger Goodell. He did, and there are players in the league that Roger Goodell will answer the phone for, and Cam's one of them. I mean, he just is. He's a star, and they're going to have that conversation. So I'm glad he did it, but unfortunately, all that's going to come of it is, we should have made that call. That was our fault. Now, what happens going forward? Is there more of a look on that? Is it it's close, he's going to get the flag? So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see, because we go back to the first game of the season. He was getting knocked around all over the place. Some were flagged, some were not. But we had this discussion, and now in this game, he's blatantly hitting the knees. I don't think in a dirty play at all by Campbell, but blatantly hit there, and he doesn't get the call. So, and that shouldn't have been a hard one to call. That's a bad mistake by the referee. So the biggest question will be is what happens going forward.
I fully do think that it will make a difference going forward. I have to believe there will be an extra. I mean, not that there aren't already an extra set of eyes on the quarterback at all times.
Yes.
Which makes this so confusing. But I find it impossible to believe that he won't get a borderline or call or two his way.
I would agree.
Going forward. Mike and Mike, Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage in America's largest and most dependable networks. Back to the World Series Live. We will go next. And here's a no Googling question for you. The NBA Finals went 7 games. The World Series is going to a 7th game. Do you know what was the last time that happened in the same year? What was no Googling. What was the last time the World Series and the NBA Finals both went 7 games in the same year? Give you a minute to think about it. Back with the answer next. Mike and Mike, right now, a word from Dave & Buster's, Mike, where they have everything you need to have the best experience this football season. First off, they got the best offer. Play 3 sports games free every day now till November 13th. You're the quarterback. Test your skills. Challenge your friends with 2-minute drill.
Then you're going to want to eat something. Get some $5 apps Sunday, Mondays, and Thursdays like Huddle Nachos, mozzarella sticks, spinach dip. Any of those, some more for $5. And then you're going to want to wash all that down. They have over 20 beers to choose from. And, oh, by the way, when you're watching the games, they have massive HD TVs. You get to feel like you're at the stadium, but with a lot better seats. So get in for the best offer of theirs offers right now. Play 3 free sports games, $5 apps, and beer specials. The offer will not last, so make sure you hurry on in. The Dave & Buster is the only place to watch the games and to play the games. Back after this on Mike and Mike.
Russell waiting, drove in 95 during the regular season. The 2-0, a swing and a high fly ball. This one's hit a long way. Left center field. That's a grand slam. Russell blows it open. He's got 6 RBIs. And it's 7-0 Cubs here in the 3rd.
Call last night, Dan Schulman, right here on ESPN Radio. You want some numbers on Addison Russell? He's the first shortstop in Major League history to hit a grand slam in the World Series. At 22, he's the first player in postseason history with 6 RBIs before turning 25. His 6 runs batted in, also the most in World Series history by a player facing elimination. Cubs get the win. Jessica Mendoza's live in just a second here on Mike and Mike. College football playoff rankings. Alabama's number 1, Clemson is 2, Michigan is 3, and then Texas A&M, which was a little bit of a surprise, being in ahead of Washington. And finally, Tiger Woods will return at the Hero World Challenge. That's the first few days of December in the Bahamas. SportsCenter is brought to you by Sport Clips.
Sport Clips Haircuts Help a Hero program funds scholarships for U.S. veterans who are pursuing a college degree or vocational certification. Visit your nearest Sport Clips to learn more and donate now through November 11th.
I asked you the question. I told you not to Google it. What was the last time we had a winner-take-all Game 7 in both the NBA Finals and the World Series? It's been a while. Mike, the last time it happened was 1962.
It has been a while. I was going to say 1963. I would have been off by a year.
It would have been just off.
Whatever, I wasn't.
In
really.
1962, the Yankees won the World Series and the Celtics won the NBA championship. It happened before that in 1960, in 1957, in 1955, and 1952. So those were all the previous occurrences. It happened quite a bit then, but this will be the sixth time we get a Game 7 in both the World Series and the NBA Finals. Let's go live to Cleveland, where Game 7 will be played tonight. Our Jessica Mendoza is standing by and ready to go with some thoughts. Jessica, a lot of the conversation in Chicago this morning, obviously elated with the win, but wondering about the decision that Joe Madden made last night to bring in Aroldis Chapman and then stay with him as long as he did. I saw your colleague, Eduardo Perez, quite critical of that decision. What did you think of it?
Well, we argued about it, of course, on air on Baseball Tonight last night. And, you know, I want to go out on a limb here. I think that Joe Madden, I was shocked that he came in as well, especially with the lead. But once he did, I mean, you think about it. The bullpen, the confidence that's there. I mean, you think about how Joe Madden has utilized the bullpen up until this point, especially in this World Series. And he has so much confidence in Chapman, but uncharacteristic. This is unconventional for anything that we have seen, but it's very similar to how Terry Francona has managed his bullpen, meaning that he wants to bring in the guy, the best guy possible when you're facing the heart of the lineup. And when you're talking about for these Cubs facing the Indians, in that point, it was the seventh inning. I agree with it. Bring him in the seventh. Now, should he come back in the eighth? Should he come back in the ninth? I don't know. But, I mean, like Joe Madden had said, he didn't have anyone ready. I don't think he has any confidence in anyone else in that bullpen, so go for it. This is Game 6, headed into Game 7. If there's any time to bring in your closer unconventionally, this is the time to do it.
I completely agree. Both Greeny and I agree. The question, though, then, 42 pitches Sunday and 20 last night. Eduardo Perez went on to say, while he disagreed with that move, he wondered, could Chapman throw more than an inning tonight if he had to? What do you think about that?
Absolutely. And you know why? We saw Aroldis Chapman when he threw 42 pitches on Sunday. He was able to, he had 99, 100, and he didn't even hit 102 until the very last pitch of that game. And when you look at what he was throwing, he was in the lower 100s. It's funny that we're even saying that lower 100s is him holding back. But what that tells me is that in Game 7, he has everything that he can put out there. And I see him being able to go not only more than one inning, but be able to go 102, 103, and be strong. That's what he's built for. Joe Madden has told me throughout this postseason, he has talked to Chapman consistently about, we might need you in innings that you've never pitched. We might need you to throw more pitches than you've ever done. But this is the first time for him and for this entire team of doing something that, as we know, hasn't been done over in a century. So we are going to see things that are unique and unconventional, and I like this decision.
Mike and Mike, Jessica Mendoza is live in Cleveland with us. On the other side, you get Corey Kluber, who was sensational in Game 1, sensational in Game 4, but here he is coming back for a second consecutive start on short rest. How much of an impact do you expect that to have on his performance and how long he may be able to go?
You know, I don't think we're going to see him for a long time, but I do think if you look at what he did Game 1, right, he was all two-seam fastball, running that pitch back over the plate. I mean, this was a guy that had one of his best pitches going in Game 1, but then he comes back Game 4, guys, he throws a career high in breaking balls. Never thrown that pitch as much as he did in Game 4, and it was nasty. So you're talking about the command of his fastball, the nastiness of his breaking ball, but to me, more than the stuff, it's him being unpredictable. Of you don't know what is coming when. And the good thing is I think absolutely the most you see Corey Kluber in Game 7 is maybe two times through the lineup, or even just two times through the heart of the lineup, the Bryant, the Rizzo, Zobrist, and then you pull him. Because why? You got a rested bullpen on the back end with Andrew Miller, Brian Shaw, Cody Allen that have going 3 days and 2 days rest. So much they have to work with. And Kluber really will have a short leash, and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I was going to mention those names you did, so they are ready to go, rested and ready to see how long Kluber can go. On the other side, you already mentioned that maybe the lack of trust with the rest of the bullpen by putting Chapman in, Lester saying it could go and maybe being used. Your thoughts on starters and how trustworthy you are of then coming in as relief pitchers?
Well, Mike, you mentioned John Lester. I think, I love what he brings. He is a bulldog, him coming in off the bench, but they have to be so careful with who is on base and who's in the lineup. And we've told the story. We've talked about it with the running game, but you're talking a Game 7, a close game. This Indians team that knows how to take advantage of Lester once they're on the bases. But you got John Lackey as well, and this is a guy with 2 rings. I mean, it's amazing when you think about, maybe not your traditional bullpen guys that have probably lost some confidence, but when you think about the starters that Joe Maddon has to be able to utilize to come in, that are probably one of the mentally most tough guys in the postseason because they have that experience in Lester and Lackey.
And as far as what went on in the outfield, you got some gold medals to your name playing out there, and when you see the miscommunication with center field and right field, What are your thoughts on a routine fly ball? And just, I'm sure you're analyzing as a former player, watching what's going on out there.
Well, and as you mentioned, an outfielder, there's 3 captains on the field, and the center fielder owns the outfield. And what Tyler Naquin did not do, and this just showed to me his youth in a huge pressure situation, 2 things. One, that is your ball. Especially with a runner on third, your momentum is coming towards home to be able to cut that. I don't care if anybody's coming out of the stands to be able to catch that ball, right field, left field. Doesn't matter. You own that outfield. You take charge. Nobody is getting that ball from you. And Tyler Naquin not only did not do that, but he said, or what Terry Francona said post-game, was that he thought he heard Chisenhall saying, "You got it, you got it." And so it was a confusion. No, what happens is you take charge, and if you don't want it, you don't say anything. So for him, you see him holding up. He kind of lets up, pulls back. That is a captain that owns. You see it with the catcher owning the pitching staff. You see it with the shortstop owning the infield. That is what a center fielder in the postseason absolutely must do, especially with screaming fans. Very disappointed. And he had another play that game as well where he just looked so hesitant. Pretty much guaranteed you're not going to see him in the game tonight because of it.
Boy, I tell you, he did, and he looked mad out there as well. I mean, just not making a decision. I love the passion in your voice, a former outfielder there. I'm talking about what
I get a little fired up,
I know you do. I love it. And I can tell in your voice, so you can just go ahead and say it. You think my hometown Indians are going to win tonight, correct?
You know what? What's fun about this, I've picked a team every single time because I felt 100% confident. Like, I felt like Lester was going to win in the games that he threw. I felt like last night, I really felt like the Cubs had it with Arrieta. And tonight, and I'm not, trust me, I am not one to tap dance by any means. Game 7, you don't know. That's what I love about it. That's what makes this game so crazy to me, because who's coming out of the bullpen? Who's coming off the bench? All hands on deck. Decisions are going to be made that we haven't seen made all postseason, and because of that, it's anybody's game. Throw out the record. It's all scratch now. It's 0-0. It might as well be the first game of the season, ending the season, because it's Cubs or Indians. I'd love to give you the Indians, but right now it's like, let's watch this game because nobody knows. I love it.
Jessica, do you think that Hendricks has to go deep in the game, though, tonight for all the reasons we've been talking about? Clearly, Kluber, if he gets through the order once or twice, you feel great about it. How deep into the game do you think Hendricks does for Joe Maddon to feel good about himself?
Yeah, Greeny, I agree. It's like completely 2 different stories we're going to be able to see tonight, because with Hendricks, he absolutely, you're right, must go deep, just because I feel like there is a lack of confidence. Now, if you're in the bullpen and you're a Mike Montgomery, you're Carl Edwards Jr., you're Rondon, I mean, obviously you want to be ready, you're going to feel good, but in the back of your mind, he hasn't wanted you. He basically said last night, when I faced the heart of this order, there was one guy that I had the option for. So you know that. Now, as we talked about earlier, you do have Lester, you do have Lackey, but you don't want to have to use those guys. Hendricks is the guy. And when you look throughout the season, underrated pitcher. When you had a Cy Young, reigning Cy Young winner in Arrieta, Hendricks was not talked about enough. This is his moment. I feel like things play out for a reason. For him to pitch Game 7, but he's going to have to go deep. For him to be a 3-4 inning outing is not going to work well for the Cubs.
All right, Jessica Mendoza, she'll be there all day for the coverage, and tonight, obviously, for Game 7 of the World Series. Thank you, Jessica.
Thanks,
enjoy.
Jeff.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Jessica Mendoza, the last time Hendricks pitched on the road was exactly a month ago. It was before the playoffs began. He was very good all year long. He was unhittable at home. I actually have a statistic on him as well. Mike and Mike, a reminder, 1 hour from now, we will have the winning word of the morning, your chance to win a trip with us to the National Championship College Football game. But up next, I have a number, and it is great news tonight if you are rooting for the Cubs. You'll hear it next after this word from ZipRecruiter. Mike, are you hiring? And if so, do you know where to post your job to find the best candidates? To find the perfect hire, you need to post your job on all the top job sites, and now you can.
With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post 100-plus job sites and social networks like Facebook and Twitter with a single click. Find candidates in any city or industry nationwide. Find out today why ZipRecruiter has been used by over 1 million businesses. And right now, listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/Mike. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Mike. Again, you can go and post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Mike. We're back after this on Mike and Mike.
Cintas, getting you ready for the work.
At our Sports Center, brought to you by AutoZone. Remember, we're giving you a chance to be on the road with us to the national championship game. Just be listening or watching every day. Your chance to win the Mike and Mike on the road to the college football playoff sweepstakes. It's presented by AutoZone. All the details are at mikesroadtothecfp.com. We will give you the word 1 hour from right now. 1 hour from this moment, we'll be giving you the word and the ways to enter, and you could win our contest. And if you miss anything on the show at any time, a reminder, you can listen hour by hour, any hour on demand, anytime you want in the ESPN app. You can also subscribe there to the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. I have two stats, both of which are good news if you're rooting for the Chicago Cubs. You're really very difficult over there, Go. Here's the first one on Kyle Hendricks from the Elias Sports Bureau. 2 starting pitchers in history have entered a winner-take-all World Series game with a postseason scoreless streak of 15 innings. One of them was Lou Burdett of the 1957 Braves. The other was Bob Gibson of the 1967 Cardinals. Both those streaks were exactly 15 innings. Kyle Hendricks enters this Game 7 with a scoreless streak of exactly 15 innings. Both Burdett and Gibson won their respective Game 7s.
That means nothing.
Yes, it means everything.
It means this happened in 1967 and 57.
Right.
It's 2016.
Correct.
Okay.
Which means it's due to happen again.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
An irrelevant statistic.
All right, do you want a more relevant statistic?
Yes, if it has my Indians winning.
It doesn't. I've got another one. I've got another one that favors the Cubs. Aroldis Chapman, all anyone is talking about is that he came in last night, and so he will pitch tonight if he does on 0 days rest. Well, Chapman's work on consecutive days has actually been very good. He's done it once this postseason and 18 times during the regular season. For his career, he's worked on 0 days rest 111 times. And I'm looking at his numbers. His numbers on 0 days rest are actually better than on any longer than that. On 0 days rest, Aroldis Chapman has an ERA of 1.7, and his strikeouts to walk ratio is almost 5-1. On all other days, so in a larger sample in which he's had more than 1 day of rest, his ERA is 2.23, so a little higher, and his strikeout to walk ratio is 3 1/3, so lower. So for what it's worth, now he doesn't usually throw as long as he did last night. I'm sure the overwhelming majority of those were one-inning performances. I don't have that broken down. But for what it's worth, when he has pitched in consecutive days, he has actually been better.
Stat is completely irrelevant.
Why is it irrelevant?
No sense at all.
Well, it doesn't go back to 1957. It doesn't go back to 1967.
It means absolutely
it
nothing.
Is the person who may be the most important person in the game tonight.
It's actually a good stat.
The most important person in the game tonight to me is Kyle Hendricks.
Kyle Hendricks, how far can he go?
Because
I mean, with Cleveland, you got leeway without question. I completely agree. How far can Hendricks go?
Some tweets here. Alan tweeted at us, when is the last time Game 7 in both the NBA and Major League Baseball? And actually, Alan, thank you. It was because you tweeted that we looked it up, and we gave you the stat earlier. The last time it happened was 1962. Howard tweets, pitching is always going to dominate, so I don't think the Cubs' bats are going to stay hot, at least not that hot, against Kluber.
Well, that's going to be the question. Again, this is his third start in the World Series, second on short rest. How sharp can he be? And if he is, then how long can he be sharp?
Jeff, it's the Cubs who will break their streak of futility. The pressure is all on the Indians now.
I disagree with that. How is it all on the Indians? Are the Cubs
just that they might
win?
blow a 3-1 lead, I guess.
Okay.
If you're up, again, you didn't play in a series sport, so it's kind of hard to say.
No.
I can't put myself in this mentality, obviously, right? No one could be farther away from having been in this situation than me. But I will say, maybe the closest thing I can think of to it is if you're playing golf in a match play situation, you know that feeling if you're ahead. Let's say, if for those who know how match play works, it goes hole by hole. Mm-hmm. So you're 4 up going to the back 9. Now you lose 2 in a row.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you think, oh my God, we had such a comfortable lead and now I'm not so far. I do know that you do get a little tighter if the other team starts catching up.
The thing I'll say about that, the difference is there can be momentum in golf. And in baseball, I think you can separate game from game. I get it in the totality of it, being up 3-1 and now it's 3-3. You're like, they've won 2, they've evened it up, or to Game 7. But I think because each baseball game is so separate.
God bless you, Mitch, who tweets at Mitch McCollum, who tweets, Golick, if you were the center fielder for the Indians, they would have won because you would have just been standing there.
Just standing on the line of scrimmage.
And you would have made the catch.
I just stood in center field and said, you got it. Lonnie, you got it.
You would have made the play. And then finally, we have to call out another one of these idiots.
Yes, we do.
So Paul DeMore tweets at us, hey, Mike and Mike, my wife is sitting here watching a day past her due date. Give her some words of wisdom to get this baby out.
Every one of these guys that does that, whether it's a boyfriend, a husband, whatever, always they got their name on there, and then they never give their wives' name. The person who's actually going to do all the work, you don't even mention who they are. It's unbelievable.
So you left out the most important thing.
Yeah.
But for whatever it's worth, Paul's wife, one day past her due date, we have these words of wisdom.
Push it good. Push it real good.
That's it. It's as simple as that.
Push it real good. Paul, stay out of the way.
And stay north of the equator.
No.
When the moment comes, stay north of the equator.
Paul. Go on down and check
No.
Yeah.
Stay up there in Canada. You don't want any part of what's going on down there.
When you're opening a new office location, but deadlines don't let up, you need to make sure your team can start working fast, which means all of a sudden, you're looking to buy new conference tables, chairs, laptops, and whiteboards quickly. Business cards from American Express Open can give you buying power to help cover the big purchases you need to make when you need to make them. Find out how American Express cards and services can help prepare you for growth at open.com.
Hey, college football fans, I'm Matt Schick. What has gone wrong at Tennessee since the season's promising start? Everything. We talk about that and chat with Kentucky coach Mark Stoops on the latest Championship Drive podcast.
Number 1 ranked Alabama heads to Death Valley for a huge SEC showdown against LSU.
Snap, fumble, Alabama's got the football.
Coverage begins Saturday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.